What happened? I'll tell you what it is. It's the cooking, the cleaning, the crying. It's the talking in your sleep. It's the moose calls that open your ears at 2 o'clock in the morning. I can't take it anymore, Felix. I'm cracking up. Everything you do irritates me. And when you're not here, it's the things you're going to do when you get in that irritate me. You leave me little notes on my pillow. I have told you 158 times I cannot stand little notes on my pillow. We are all out of cornflakes. F you. It took me 3 hours to realize that FU stood for Felix Unger. It's not your fault, Felix. It's a rotten combination. You get the picture. Oh, no. No. This is just the frame. I haven't even begun to paint the picture yet. I have a typewritten list in my office of the top 10 things you do that drive me absolutely berserk. Oh, but last night was the topper. Oh, brother, last night was the ever-loving Lulu of them all. I had everything perfectly set up with that English Betty Boop and her sister, and I end up drinking tea and telling them your life story. For 6 months, I lived alone in this apartment. All alone in 8 big rooms. I was dejected, despondent, and disgusted. And then, you moved in. My closest and dearest friend. And after 3 weeks of close personal contact, I'm about to have a nervous breakdown. Do me a favor, Felix. Move into the kitchen. Live with your pots, pans, ladles, meat thermometers. And when you want to come out, just ring a little bell, and I'll run off into the kitchen. Felix, I'm asking you nicely, as a friend. Stay out of my way.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Very nice, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done, Chris.
Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Good. All right. Let me get ready for the next one. Okay. This is called, let's go all back onto mute. I'm going to mute everybody. And we'll go on speaker view again. Okay, stand by. Great, and here we go.
Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose.
So, I have this ritual, I guess you could call it, this thing that I do. It's the last thing I do every Christmas Eve. I go out to the yard and I throw shit on my roof. It's a ritual. Now, I just returned from making our annual attempt at the 8th Street sledding record with my wife, Drew, and my daughter, Elise. And I go to the garage, and I put on gloves, and I go out in the yard where I throw horse shit right on my roof. My wife has become somewhat cautious. She likes to remind me that I'm ridiculous with these fantasies. What do you want your daughter to do, she says? Come home from school in tears when she's 15? Some kid in her class will say, oh yeah, you're the kid that lives in the house with the shit on it. I have thrown horse shit on my roof for 4 years now, and I plan to do it every year until my arm gives out. It satisfies me as a homeowner to do so, especially the way the 2 rose bushes by the gutter sprout and have raged into some new profound growth. As a father, it satisfies me as a ritual. It keeps my family close to me. Another one of our rituals is the H Street sledding record. I put a brake on our sled back when my wife was pregnant with Elise. It was the handle of a broken Louisville Slugger, if I remember correctly. I bolted it in the back so that when we pulled on it, it would drag us to a stop. So it would be safe enough to even make our attempt at the record, which was set on the first Christmas Eve of our marriage, I'll have you know. Drew and I took our brand new sled up to the top of H Street Hill, and without speaking or knowing what we were doing, we opened a new ritual into our marriage. At the top, we scanned the whole city, blurry with snow. We sat on our brand new sled and we set off. At first, the sled rode high and effortlessly against the deep snow. And then suddenly our hearts began to race and our eyes were burning against the snowy air and we were going slightly faster than we had originally intended. We crossed 10th Street, almost taking flight, and then came 9th and 8th and 6th and 2nd till a car turned onto 8th Street heading our way and we veered sharply over a curve and Drew took a full face of snow, which she squirmed out of just in time to whisper to me, that was a record. I think Drew wants another baby. I can't be sure, but I think she wants another child. The signs are really subtle. They barely seem to add up, but well, she does say things like, remember that time before Elise went to school and there sure are a lot of women in their mid-30s having babies these days. I should ask her, but for some reason I don't. For some reason I've avoided talking to Drew about this subject. You see, I want another child too badly to have her not want one. I remember before we even had Elise and we were dating, and I wished to complicate things by wanting Drew to sleep with me. She wanted to keep the couch cushions between us and think it over. But I'll tell you, we did steam up the windows in her parents' living room almost every night. But she'd never give in. We did, however, develop our little joke about the word condition, which we still use as our code word for desire. And later that year, after one glorious night, she came to me and said, I'd like to speak to you about this condition. And I knew everything was going to be all right, and that we would spend Christmas together for the rest of our lives with all of these rituals. Like when we go buy a Christmas tree, my daughter has selected a short, broad tree. It seems to have grown in 2 directions and then sort of given up on both of them. When we go to pay for this tree, the master of ceremonies is busy negotiating a deal with these 2 kids. The tree man said that he has to have $35 for their particular tree, but the boy only has 28, and his girlfriend, a rather large girl with a full haircut and a black leather jacket, is wailing over this tree. Okay, let me explain this. The tree stands alone, a noble pine of about 14 feet. So unless these kids live in a gymnasium, they're buying a tree bigger than their needs. The boy opens a handful of coins and says he will give him $31.51 and his watch. When I see this, I give Elise $5 and tell her to go wish the guy a Merry Christmas. But instead, I hear my daughter say, "Here, Santa wants you to keep your watch." And then we go home. And while the two women I love begin decorating this tree with the many artifacts of our Christmas together, I sew popcorn on a long string. It's a ritual I prefer for its uniqueness. The fact that once a year, I sit in the living room and I watch these two women revolve around a plant that's in our house, and I sit there and I sew food. Okay, so on the morning of the 24th of December, Elise comes into our bedroom already dressed for sledding. "Good news, Daddy. We've got a shot at the record," she says. It's been snowing all night. That night, we drive back along the snowy avenues. Drew takes my hand and we walk up the middle of the street behind our daughter. And Drew stops me in the intersection. And as the world stands still, as the snow falls around us, there's silence. And Elise turns around and says, "What are you guys waiting for, Christmas?" We arrange ourselves on the sled, as we have for 8 years now. As I reach my legs around these two women, I can sense their excitement. "It's going to be a record," she says. "Do you think so?" I said. And my daughter says, "Oh yeah, the conditions are perfect." When my daughter says the word condition, my wife leans back and kisses me again. So I press a little further. "There's still room on the sled," I say. "According to the E in the flexible flyer that's visible between your legs, Elise, there's still room for another person." And my 8-year-old daughter looks at my wife and I and says, "Who?" And my wife and I look at each other and say, "Your new baby little brother." That's all that was said. Sitting there on the top of the H Street Hill, on a sled as old as my marriage, with a brake as old as my daughter. Later on tonight, I will go home and I will throw horse shit on my roof. I love Christmas. The snow spirals around us softer now. I put my hands around my family, my feet on the steering board, and we slip down 8th Street trying for the record. Oh, and the conditions? Yeah, the conditions were perfect.
Well done.
Nicely done.
All right.
Good job.
2 down, 2 to go. So
Ryan, what was that from?
that is a Ron Carlson short play called the H Street Sledding Record.
Nice.
And he wrote it for New Yorker magazine in like the 60s.
Well done.
Yeah, it's a cool piece.
That after all the shit, my toddler came out and he especially liked the part about the tree and then said it was a very good story.
I guess I should have given a warning on that one.
Yeah, you had me at shit on the roof.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right, we're going to go back to mute, everybody.
Hey, Ryan,
Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
Jackie is in the waiting room. Can you let her in? Oh, okay.
I guess she's made it in.
All right, great. Thanks.
Okay, so we are going to move on to Miss Samantha Gurn. And Samantha, Sam, I should say, the floor is yours, and you are doing a selection from the Douglas Carter Bean play, The Little Dog Laughed, which fun story on the side there. The original cast, the Broadway cast, did a live Zoom reading of this just a week ago. It's pretty neat. All right, Sam, the floor is yours.
Okay. Can you see me? Hold on. The beginning. Well, beginnings are always beautiful. Beginnings are okay. Do you know Breakfast at Tiffany's? The film, not the novella. I know, there's a novella. Who? The beginning. Audrey Hepburn, the most beautiful, gets out of the cab in Givenchy. Quadruple strands of pearls, and she walks to a window at Tiffany's. Again with the beautiful. And then the melody Moon River wafts in. Start with me. The beauty quotient is excessively high. Then beautiful Audrey Hepburn is sneaking into her Upper East Side townhouse, away from the not so beautiful older man. But the running away part is beautiful. And then the unspeakable happens. Mickey Rooney is in full-on novelty, Hiroshio glasses and buck teeth, and Miss Garrity, I must protest! And we can never recover. She can gab on and on about the mean Reds and Cat not having a name, but sorry, it's too late. The beginning has been irrevocably ruined. But I digress. We're in New York, which we of Los Angeles love, accepting awards from critics, which we love even more so. My client, a rising movie star who suffers from a slight reoccurring case of homosexuality, informs me that as his date, are you possibly seated for this? As his date to this award ceremony, he would like to bring his mother, so that no one will know he's gay. So I throw a flame retardant blanket on this potential breast fryer and volunteer myself as his date. I'm lesbian, he's a fag, we're in show business, we're a perfect couple. So we walk down the carpet, the flash of cameras, and I see his delight and warmth grow and flourish. The unmistakable moment when the outcast is allowed indoors. And all it takes is a little deception. Later, during one of the inevitable moments of introspection that inevitably happens during an award ceremony, as I wonder just how much of my life has been spent sitting in these same old gold bamboo chairs, I realize that my evening's date is leaving our table and strolling towards the dais. He has won. His acceptance speech is inspired. Yes, there is the slight stumble when he forgets to thank the screenwriter, who is credited and has just accepted the award not 10 minutes prior, and oops, does thank the writer that he brought onto the project, but who cares? It involves screenwriters, and at the end, the part where the name of a deceased parent, a recent world horror, or a terribly popular co-star is evoked, he calls to me, choked with emotion, and extends an open palm to Diane. My client states, significant tears roll, finding their lazy way down his dermabraced face, the woman who taught me how to love and how to dream. And then the silence. The vacuum of doubt, the utter disbelief that Pansy actually went there. But a roomful of show business professionals quickly recovers, remembering that there are cameras everywhere, and surely one of them, which will be broadcasting this moment, because there are movie stars involved, the room obligingly precedes a smattering of polite applause. And then the realization that indeed a dream must be kept alive. So Peter Pan's little fairy Tinkerbell's defense, the room explodes into applauding and cheering, and he walks down, presents his award to me, holds me in his masculine arms, and kisses me full on the lips. And here's the part that is so luscious. I'm actually touched. I really like him. And he likes me. And he said that to everyone. And that kind of means something. Later, when I'm in my hotel and watching one of the inevitable rebroadcasts of this event, my only wish is that when he announced our love, I didn't have such a look on my face of fucking shock.
Well done. Well done.
That was awesome. Really nice job. That's a cool monologue. Cool. All right. So we'll do our last monologue, then we can chat a little bit and see how it went. So this last one, Dale, I'm gonna just go on mute and stop my video, and you can introduce it.
Okay, this is From a Normal Heart by Larry Kramer. I picked it because Larry Kramer died a few days ago. And it is set in New York City during the AIDS epidemic in 1983, before the mainstream press is doing anything about it. This is delivered by a character to Ned, and Ned is the autobiographical carrier that is Larry Kramer. Ned, Albert is dead. What's today, Wednesday? He's been dead a week. No one knew we were close. He wouldn't tell anyone. You know why? Because of me. Because he knows I'm so scared I'm some sort of a carrier. That makes 3 people I've been with who are dead. I went to Emma and I begged her, please test me somehow. Please tell me if I'm giving this to people. And she said she couldn't. There isn't any way they can find out anything because they still don't know what they're looking for. Albert, I think I loved him best of all, and he went so fast. His mother wanted him back in Phoenix before he died. This was last week when it was obvious, so I got permission from Emma to bundle him up and take him to the plane in an ambulance. The pilot wouldn't take off, and I refused to leave the plane. You would have been so proud of me. So finally, they get another pilot. Then, after we take off, Albert loses his mind, not recognizing me, not knowing where he is or if he's going home. And then right there on the plane, he becomes incontinent. He starts doing it in his pants and all over the seat, shit, piss, everything. I pulled down my suitcase and I yanked out whatever clothes were in there and I started mopping him up as best I can. And all these people started staring at us and moving away in droves. And I ram all these clothes back in a suitcase and I sit there holding his hand saying, Albert, please, no more, no more. Hold it in, man, I beg you, just for us, for Bruce and Albert. And when we got to Phoenix, there's a police van waiting for us. And all the police are in complete protective rubber clothing. They look like fucking astronauts. And by the time we get to the hospital, where his mother had fixed up his room real nice, Albert was dead. Wait. It gets worse. The hospital doctors refused to examine him to put a cause of death on the death certificate. And without a death certificate, the undertakers wouldn't take him away, and neither would the police. Finally, some orderly comes in and stuffs Albert in a heavy-duty Glad bag and motions us with his finger to follow and puts him out in the back alley with the garbage. He says, "Hey man, see what a big favor I've done for you? I got him out. I want $50. I paid him. And then his mother and I carried the bag to her car. And we finally found a black undertaker who cremated him for $1,000, no questions asked. Would you and Felix mind if I spent the night on your sofa, just one night? I don't want to go home.
Well done. Awesome. We can all come back on the video now and unmute ourselves and join the fun.
Say hi.
Boy, he's gotten an education tonight.
Actually, he actually wasn't in here. He just walked out, so it's okay. All right.
Cool. So there you go. Rich, any thoughts?
Oh, what a great variety of stuff. You know, I think it was really fun to we all from Neil Simon to Larry Kramer. You know, it's a pretty wide swath. So it was
That's not the double billing.
Yeah. Yeah. Dale, I don't know if you knew, we had an alum who was in that HBO movie.
Oh, cool. I'll have to watch it.
Yeah, he graduated in '96, I think. He plays a character that I don't think it's a character as a name in the play, but he does in the movie. His name is Morton in the movie, and he has quite a bit of screen time. It worked out really well. He apparently who was the director? Ryan Murphy, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
What?
Joe, the director of the movie?
Yeah, I think it was Ryan Murphy.
Oh,
I'm not sure. Whoever the director was really liked Sean a lot and made sure he was in like all the background shots and things like that. So he got a lot of screen time and figured prominently in the scene with Julia Roberts, where she's talking to the crisis group that is forming about, you know, how they need to conduct business. And so it was kind of neat. Yeah, you'll see him quite a bit. He's done quite a bit of stuff, but yeah, it's kind of a great monologue and a great movie.